quick shout out to our sponsor, DirecTV for Business. If you're a restaurant owner, this is the gold standard for sports, music, and customer experience. You'll get access to top sports packages, over 40 regional sports networks, plus 84 plus music channels to set the mood, and real dedicated support from experts who actually know your account. Whether you're running one location or planning to grow, they make it simple. To learn more about DirecTV for Business and special offers for CRA members, go to CalRest's website at calrest.org and hit the Marketplace tab. Welcome to Confidential Bulletin. I'm Leslie T., your host today, and I want to start this episode with a question for anyone who owns or operates a restaurant. When was the last time you tried a new restaurant without looking it up online first? Chances are you, like me, searched Google, you checked your maps, you scanned the menu, glanced at photos, maybe checked out a few reviews, and then decided if you would patronize that restaurant. And that's because pretty much everyone's doing this, right? Most diners decide where to eat before they ever walk through your front door. Today is part one of a two-part conversation about what that means for restaurants and what operators can do to use this to your advantage. So I'm joined by two people who sit right in the middle of that decision-making moment. Lisa Landsman from Google. Hi, Lisa. Lisa has been at Google for over 20 years and has been working with restaurants for most of her career, from large enterprise brands to independent operators. In her current role, she's tasked with helping small businesses understand the tools and features they can use to get discovered on Google. And Joel Seidenberg from Locl. Joel is a marketing expert with more than 20 years of experience. He's a former marketing agency owner whose firm was successfully acquired and an advisor to several software startups. Great to have you here, Joel.
Thank
And
you.
you've worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of small businesses and restaurants through Locl. So we're excited to have you not only as a CRA marketplace partner, particularly because we know that our members are looking for practical help in this space, but wanted to start with just a quick question. Like, tell me what led you to start your company.
Thanks, Leslie. It's great to be here. Good to see you again, Lisa. Yeah, it's a big problem out there that a lot of businesses are facing. And so, being in the agency world, back in the day, we got to work with lots of different businesses and restaurants and learned their problems and their challenges. And the marketing space is a difficult one these days. And so, after, working with lots of really small businesses and even up to large corporations, I learned personally that my heart is for small businesses. I care more about them succeeding, right, than some of the largest corporations out there. And I wanted to, build some tools that could help those businesses where they need it most, where some of their lowest hanging fruit exists. They're not marketers themselves, most operators, right? They don't necessarily want to be. And, I also learned that the agency model just doesn't work for a lot of them. Either it's too expensive or it's, sort of bloated, or they're just not able to dig in deep enough with some of these businesses to be able to really help them. And, just watching how offline purchase funnels happen, which are much more difficult to predict and measure, versus e-commerce. We started Locl to just help businesses, where they're at, local businesses, which are the backbone of every community, provide both locals and visitors the experiences and, make up the personality of those places. And Google profiles, Google Maps, and listings is like the place to do this with them. It's their probably biggest asset, hiding in plain sight most of the time.
Right. And to your point, I mean, I think each one of us here today really has a heart for helping small business and restaurants. So let's pivot a bit. Let's get started. Dive right in. Keep it very real and practical for our operators. And we want to provide best practices for sure. But before we get tactical, I'd really like to level set. And Lisa, when a diner is hungry, they pull out their phone, but what's actually happening on Google in that moment? Can you explain that?
Of course. And thanks for having me, by the way. Great to see you. We say a lot of different types of searches in those moments. Think about it from your own perspective, right? What need state are you in, or what need state is someone in? Are they looking for somebody somewhere they can go now? Do they want to make a reservation now? Are they in the mood for Thai food? Do they need to find a place with a certain size group to watch the Super Bowl? Are they know where they want to go and they just need traffic and directions, right? For somewhere that they're planning to go. So what's been really interesting in the past year is typically we would see somebody come to Google and do restaurants near me search, right? But now that AI has come into the picture, we've seen much longer queries or what we call complex queries. So instead of that, restaurants near me, now it's restaurants near me open now that have an outdoor patio with heat lamps, great for a girls' night and has a bunch of vegetarian items, right? So this is awesome because it is filled with intent. And as a business, if you meet all of those needs that somebody might have in that moment, you want to be able to put your best foot forward so you show up in those searches. And you may have noticed there's been a lot of change in the search results lately, particularly with AI. But one of the things that you may have noticed is these justifications or why these results came up in relation to that search. So, for example, you might see information coming from reviews or photos. So, if you're looking for a place with an outdoor patio, now you can actually see pictures of those. Or somebody might say it was so spacious and beautiful for our group, right? And so, based on those need states or the search that somebody has given us, now we're able to show why we're giving you this information back. Much more relevant.
Okay, so I think that's really interesting, and a lot of operators don't really realize how intent driven those searches are and how important it is to make sure that they're aware of the complex query behavior that you just mentioned and that they've got to adapt, right? And they have to make sure by adapting that they can be found. Is that right? Yeah.
That's exactly right. I think oftentimes people think of business profile as a set it and forget it, but the more information, to your point, that they give us about all of those things that they offer, and I know we'll dig into that a little bit more, the better of a chance they have showing up. If you don't tell us you have a patio or there's no picture of it, you're not going to show up if somebody's looking for a place with a great patio.
Got it. Okay. So Joel, from your side, when restaurants come to local, do they understand how important that discovery moment is?
Some do. More times than not, they don't know or they don't fully know. There's a lot that can be done on these platforms. Google Business Profile specifically, there's a lot that people can do there to have better visibility. And to be honest, it's a little tough for them to keep up with it. If they're not in it day to day, there are career people like us that just focus on Google Business Profiles, every day, but that's not most restaurant operators, right? So, yeah, we're doing a lot to help people just understand what's possible here. And we all use it, right? We're all, like you said, we're all pulling out our phone, looking for best pizza near me, where to take kids to ice cream on the way home from wherever, right? Like it's so ingrained in our day to day. As a business tool, we often overlook, what all is possible here. So, yeah, a lot of what we do is just help people understand. It's like meet them where they're at, right? Some of them, they kind of fall into two camps. Like most of them are on Google Maps at this point. Some are still not, and we help with that. That's the first step, obviously. But then it's like, what's possible afterwards? And it continues to grow. Like, that's what's amazing about this platform, too, is that it continues to change and Google's invested in it and they know it makes a difference globally. And so, staying up with what becomes available and expanding on that, is part of it. So, most businesses are somewhat familiar, few fully know, and it's part of our job to help them understand and provide them tools that just unlock the potential without them having to be a marketing expert and to, change careers and become a career marketer to do it.
Got it. And I guess that's where it kind of can become uncomfortable for operators, right? Because their food can be amazing. But if their digital presence if it's incomplete or if it's wrong, it really doesn't matter because, honestly, like so many of our smaller to even mid-sized members and restaurant brands, they don't have that marketing firm. So The chef, to your point, the owner, they're responsible for managing their online presence, but they're not experts in that space. So, Lisa, you've called Google Business Profile a restaurant's most important digital asset. The most important digital asset, like that's huge. So, tell us more about why.
Yeah, no, I agree. And first of all, I just want to say I so appreciate folks like Joel and his team doing what they do because this is a huge struggle, just to acknowledge what you were just talking about. Huge struggle, right? These operators are wearing a lot of hats and nobody has time to learn all these tools. Google is one of many digital tools. So we're just grateful for folks like Joel and his team who do what they do. So thank you. Yes, most important digital asset. I mean, you think about we have, trillions of searches every year. For us, every month in 2024, we saw, 2 billion digital connections to 19 million American businesses every single month. Like there is a lot going on here. And this is an opportunity for a business this might be the first time they're being introduced to someone, right, through the search. So they want to make sure that they're telling their story. And I know we had talked a little while ago with Joel just about this being a place where a business can tell their story. And I talk about that a lot. If your business profile could talk, what story would it tell? So we see people coming to Google either for discovery, like, I don't know what I want to eat. I want to be inspired. They're doing some comparison shopping between restaurants. My husband's a big foodie and we'll go out to dinner with friends and he'll be like, here's 5 restaurants. Tell me which ones you want. Right. And what do? They go to Google and they're digging into the menus and all of the information. Right. So think about those different need states that I talked about earlier. Romantic night with group, right? Like a girls' night. So I'll give you a couple of examples, right? If I'm looking to be inspired, I'm going to go deep, right? I want to see the food. I want to read the reviews. We're trying to give some AI review summaries, so you have to read them all. But sometimes, and we'll talk about reviews later, it's helpful to see not only what people are saying, what they liked, what dishes they liked, how was the service, and also how is that restaurant operator showing up there. But I want to see pictures of the place. Is there a live band? Are there specials? Like what's going on? And how might I feel when I get there? If I know I'm going to a restaurant, I might just want to make a reservation, check out the hours, the address, see if they have free parking or are they wheelchair accessible if somebody in my party needs that, right? What are some of those might be the differentiators of why I choose one place versus another. And I'm not going to lie, for me with restaurants, I almost always go on to see what people are wearing. I know that's ridiculous, but
Oh,
like a
interesting.
lot of restaurants, well, they will listen, they put a lot of money into the design. They have this gorgeous space. They want to show it off. But from a user perspective, right, or a diner perspective, what am I going to wear? Am I going to be overdressed if I put on something stylish? Stylish. Or if I, you know what I mean? I don't want to be overdressed. I don't want to be underdressed. I want to see what kind of vibe it has. So all those things are super important. So your business profile is a place where you can give us all this information. And so that's why it's one of your most important digital assets.
All right. So Google's the front door, and there are many people who are kind of maybe intimidated by Google, right? So what advice do you have for them in setting up or checking their profile? I mean, Joel, you're auditing listings. What are the common things that restaurants are getting wrong?
Well, first, I guess I would say this is no shame to all the operators out there. Like, we rarely come across a business that doesn't have problems with their listing. Like, it's common. There's a lot to keep track of. Like I said, it's changing on a regular basis. So, one of the things that we offer are some scans and reports that show you where your problems are. We commonly, I mean, it goes from very basic to nuanced. So a lot of businesses, they're familiar with their primary category, which is like the most foundational thing, like what kind of business are you? But they don't necessarily know that they can choose up to 9 additional secondary categories as well. So if you're a restaurant, right, of any kind, restaurant's your primary category, but if you have a bar, you're also a cocktail bar. If you in like the different types of food you might offer, Mexican food, there's all the different types of cuisines. There's a bunch of secondary categories that you need to add, which just casts a wider net, right? You become a match for more searches, specific searches that people are out there looking for, right? So that's like very common, as foundational as that is, and it's very quick and easy to change and add to it, and the secondary categories don't even show up. So obviously be honest about it so it's relevant, but you can add stuff in there. Like if you rent out a back room, then you're an event venue. And that's a secondary category that you can add and show up for people searching for, graduation parties or retirement parties or, whatever. So, yeah, categories, primary, secondary for sure. Uh, a lack of photos is a really big one too. And yes, your diners can upload photos and you can't necessarily control that. Hopefully they're good, right? That's why you as the owner operator need to be uploading your owner photos as well. So that's really, again, very basic things that go a really long ways. So,
Yeah.
if a picture, says 1,000 words, right? Having as many of those as you can and uploading them on a regular basis because Google doesn't just care about having lots of photos; they care about having recent photos. So yeah, I mean, we can. There's lots of things. It is not a place to. It's not a thing to worry about, and we'll help guide you. If you have questions about it.
Great. Lisa, do you see those same mistakes showing up in Google data? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So +1 to everything that Joel said, I think. And there's no shame in that game, right? These things are hard to keep up with. You don't know what to do. A lot of folks are like, I'm just going to focus on my hours and reviews and pay no attention to anything else. However, this is a problem because it ends up hurting credibility. So, for example, some of the things we see are like broken links. So, website links, menu links, we see 404 links showing up, which is a problem. We see a lot of outdated menus. I mean, as like a diner, a customer, how often do you look at something online and you're like, "Oh my god, I really want this French onion soup," and you get to the restaurant and it's not on the menu anymore? That's a terrible experience for folks, right? Incorrect hours. Somebody might say they're open on a holiday and then they're not, and you've driven there
Mhm.
thinking you're going there. So a lot of this stuff is really important to make sure it's up to date because not only, I mean, it hurts our credibility as Google not giving fresh information, but it hurts the business's credibility and somebody might not want to give them another chance if they go there and have that. The other thing I'd recommend for every business operator, I think we all keep these operator business hats on all the time and like, what do I need to do from a business perspective? But actually, like, take off your operator hat and put on your customer hat. Go and look at how you as a business show up, right? Google yourself, Google your category, Google your competitors and see how do you show up compared to them? Like, would you choose you if you were a customer and didn't know much about your business? So I think a lot of people can just check out what others are doing. Is there something you can be inspired by? Are you proud of what you show up? If not, make some changes. Again, no shame in that game. Nobody is perfect, and there's a lot to keep up with here.
Yeah, and I mean, those are very simple things, right? That they should be able to, they don't cost a lot of money. They should be able to manage on their own and fix those things. I mean, we know that our members are struggling and they're dealing with high costs and theft and crime. So and they're always looking for new tactics to grow sales without having to spend a lot. So paying attention and focusing on that Google business profile is relatively simple and a no-brainer and a game changer, right? Okay, we would
We
all
think
agree to
so.
that. Excellent. Okay. So, if there's one thing to remember from today, it's this, that you can't attract diners or new sales if you can't be seen, right? In part two, we're going to talk about what happens after a diner finds you because visibility alone doesn't guarantee a visit. But before we wrap, one quick preview question for both of you. What's the one thing that makes a diner hesitate even after they find a restaurant online? Lisa, you go first.
Ooh, that's a really good question. I think potentially like reviews, reading reviews, and if there's hours or something that say like maybe accurate, not being able to trust it. So they might have found a place and then they're not actually sure if the information is correct. Sometimes, and particularly with AI, we're seeing sometimes there's inconsistent information across different platforms, and so
Mm,
sometimes the AI gets confused and might show up something wrong. So you just want to make sure everything's accurate. So I think that's it. If they can't trust what they're seeing, there might be some hesitation.
good point. Joel?
Yeah, I totally second that. And we'll, sneak peek into the next episode with reviews, right? Reviews are like the digital version of word of mouth, right? It's everything. So certainly agree with that. And I guess one other thing would just be amenities or lack thereof. There's a lot of details that you can add to your profile that will allow you to match up with more detailed searches. Like Lisa's saying, the searches that are happening these days are detailed. So, it's very easy to do. It's checking boxes for different attributes and amenities, for your business. And a lot of times they're just overlooked because folks aren't aware, that they're there. So checking those
That's such a
out.
good point. By the way, I just wanna chime in and like, yes, 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 because like parking is such a big I live in Chicago, right? Parking is such a big deal. And if people don't know if you have free parking, is there a lot? Am I gonna have to valet? If they don't have that information, that like actually might be a decision maker or a differentiator
Sure.
for them not. So just plus one to Joel there.
Yeah, thanks. And
All
then
right.
because we're talking to restaurants here, menus, right? Having full menus available for folks to see ahead of time is a really big deal.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you guys both for your wisdom, for sharing this information with our audience. In our next episode of Confidential Bulletin, we're going to take a deeper dive on the tactics and how to manage your digital presence. So stay tuned for that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Leslie.